And a yeehaw and howdy, y'all. We're back again for another week of the Blitz Trading Post. This is our final episode of the breaking down the depth charts of each team there. What we're going to be doing is saving the best, or the West, for last, I should say. And that was coined by you, my man on my left, the only guy to show up tonight. We know George has some internet issues. We know Joe is somewhere. And Alex is actually at a picnic right now, which is understandable. It's 4th of July weekend. Happy 4th of July, everybody. And what's up, Jason? How we doing this evening?
Doing very well, man. Like lots of things in my life were busy this week, but you know what is a constant, a very beautiful constant, is coming back and doing some fantasy football talk with my boys, and at least tonight with a boy, and that's you, Dirty Jobs Mike. So I appreciate you having me on for this one, and looking forward to going through the West.
Heck yeah, it's been a minute since me and you had to do a show together, but just like riding a bike, I think me and you have done plenty of blitzes like this in the past. It's like nothing to it. So very excited to just get this whole series over with. Not that it hasn't been a fun series, it's just been a long series, and we'll be able to get back into more of the fantasy talks and things like that, like getting towards redraft and everything. Getting pretty excited, man. It's that time of year. So we're going to go ahead and just kick this off, guys. We're going to start out with like I said, the AFC West. We got the Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, which is a great division, man. This division is chock full of fantasy studs. We've got a lot of change situations, though, so there's a lot of kind of things that we got to take back and maybe really think about here on a lot of these guys, because there's, like, I think everybody outside of the Chargers has a brand new either quarterback, a brand new set of receivers, a brand new set of receivers on two of those teams.
Weapons, man, just weapons across the board.
Weapons across the board. That is exactly right. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off with the Broncos, my babies, my Broncos. We got Russell Wilson at the quarterback, and that's why they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. We got Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon sitting back at running back again. We got Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy leading off the wide receiver core with Seth Williams, Kendall Hinton, and KJ Hamler backing them up. And then we got the tight end beast, Albert Okwuegbunam, and Greg Dulcich as the tight end situation. Since you're the only one here, we'll go ahead and let you kick this one off.
Man, I for sure thought you were going to kick. This is your team, man. I can't kick your team off. I will say, you are the one fantasy expert I've heard actually say Albert O. Not say Albert O. You actually pronounce his name properly, because nobody else wants to try it, and you're a Broncos fan, so kudos to you, man.
It's really crazy that people just can't say Okwuegbunam. Like, it's not that hard. I mean, I get it that it looks like a big word or whatever, but it's really not that hard to pronounce. And I mean, once you hear him pronounce it about 150 times, it's really not that bad. So
I all of a sudden got the Lion King song stuck in my head. In the jungle.
That's too funny. So, okay, well, I will kick this one off. So the thing about this team is that I feel like with the defense that they've got, with this offense lined up now, this team actually has a potential chance to be a real threat in the AFC. Russell Wilson is a dynamic game changer, and now he has a better line than he's used to. He's got a better running game than he's used to. He's got great wide receivers, which, not that he didn't have great wide receivers in Lockett and Metcalf, but I feel like Sutton, Patrick, and Jeudy will add a whole lot more to the mix. And then even just KJ Hamler in the back there. And I like Albert Okwuegbunam a lot too. And there's our man, George. There he is. We knew he was going to make it. So we'll go ahead and, like, with that, I feel like the only real dull spots on this is the Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon split. I think they're going to see probably closer to 60-40, whereas they saw 50-50 last year. So, I mean, with the 60-40 split going into Javonte Williams, I think he's still going a little bit early. I'm really excited to see what Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick can do with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. And I'd really like to see something out of Jerry Jeudy, because he hasn't really shown us a whole awful lot yet. But, I mean, when you look at the quarterback situation that he had, you almost can't blame the guy. George, what do you think about the Broncos this year?
I hate the Broncos. No, I'm just kidding.
I would minimize you if it didn't mean losing you on the edit of the audio.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm excited about the fantasy prospects from that team. As you mentioned, and you, Jason, probably both mentioned, they traded for an actual quarterback this offseason in Russell Wilson. I didn't really drop him in my quarterback rankings. I got him number 8 overall in redraft leagues. You touched on Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Like, I fully expect that those two guys are going to split again. I don't think it's going to be Javonte Williams is all of a sudden the workhorse running back. That's not what they've done there. I can't even remember the last time they had a true 3-down running back on that team. If they wanted Javonte Williams to be the 3-down running back, they would not have brought back Melvin Gordon. So I'm expecting to see a split there. Cortland Sutton, I do believe, the wide receiver 1 on this team. He's been the wide receiver 1 there before. It's going to be one of those things where it's going to be frustrating because they have a lot of talent at the wide receiver position. They got Cortland Sutton, they got Tim Patrick, they do have Jerry Jeudy. All 3 of those guys are really good. I expect Sutton to be the best of the 3. And then I think you're going to have some weeks where it's going to be a Tim Patrick week. Some weeks it'll be a Jerry Jeudy week. They signed both Sutton and Patrick to big contracts this offseason. And to be honest, I don't care about the tight ends on this team. I just don't. Russell Wilson traditionally hasn't really targeted his tight ends. And I don't think there's enough football to go around. It's true. He really doesn't use his tight ends.
Look, I was giving you. I was Will dissing you, man. Will Disley was a beast when he was on the field with Russell.
There was nobody else there with him, and that was like 6 years ago. Like, can we not pretend Russell Wilson uses his tight ends? He just doesn't.
Jimmy Graham. I mean, there was all kinds of tight ends scoring touchdowns with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Are you going to feel comfortable starting them week in, week out? No, you're not.
I think Albert you will be able to. I think you're going to see a lot of tight end usage there.
Yeah, I feel bad. Noah Fant getting bounced off this team right when the good quarterback comes in, right? Like, I think Noah Fant could have been good on this team, and now he's stuck in Seattle on that S sandwich that I'll be nice and not curse. But looking at it, look, Javonte Williams is going super high from my blood. Like, he's going in the range where I don't want to take him just because, he finished a top 2 running back less than 50% last year, and he's going so early. Like, running back 14, I think, is his average right now. That is so early. And I like Javonte as a football player, but just as a fantasy perspective, it's not ideal. So I like this team a lot. I want Sutton. I want Patrick. I'll even take Jeudy. I think of the three, I would take Sutton and Patrick over Jeudy at this point because I haven't seen it from Jeudy, and I hope Russ is that difference maker. But like I think Sutton is the talent, and I think Patrick is the cheap guy to go after if you just want a piece of this offense. The running back spot, I'd even take Melvin Gordon as like a high end handcuff later, right? He's Don't give me Alexander Madison late in these drafts anymore. I know Dalvin Cook will go down and Madison will be okay, but if Javonte Williams has an issue this year, Melvin Gordon is going to go off. And the one thing we talked about before we started doing the show is that just the opportunities are going to go up for these guys. And I think that's where, if you wanted to say like that Javonte and even Melvin Gordon could be good, it's that they're going to have more opportunities to score. And they did some scoring last year, but they're going to be, you got to think that they'll have a lot more red zone opportunities this year compared to last year. So even if they do share the workload, it could be a better workload.
Absolutely.
So,
we got our man, Joe Clark. Sorry, let me go ahead and shout Joe out real fast. He's saying he agrees on Sutton and he thinks Denver D should get Russ the ball. And I really like this comment here. And what's up, Joe? He says, if all goes according to plan, the AFC should be an absolute bloodbath this season and a pure joy to follow. And I really completely agree with that. But go ahead, George.
Yeah, this whole division is by far the most fantasy relevant division in the NFL. And as far as just NFL not pertaining to fantasy, they're going to eat each other alive in this division. Like, we haven't got there yet, but Derek Carr is a really good quarterback, and he's the worst quarterback in this division. And he's like a top 15 quarterback. So they're just going to eat each other alive. The defenses in this division outside of, I think, Kansas City, are all very, very, very good.
And even Kansas City when they can get their crap together, man, they actually look pretty decent defensively. They're a team that really sucks at the beginning of the year, but boy, they usually turn it on towards the end when they make those Super Bowl runs, just until they get to the Super Bowl and they allow Cooper Kupp to somehow still get open.
over and over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's more Cooper Kupp. Well, that's good on the Broncos, even though I could talk about the Broncos all night. You guys know I am the #1 Broncos fan. So, but now we'll go ahead and get into these 3 lesser teams. We'll just call that. We'll go with the Chiefs. We got Mahomes as the quarterback. We got CEH, Clyde Edwards, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, at the running back with Ronald Jones. And we got Marquez Valdes-Scantling, McCole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster. Josh Gordon is 4th on the depth chart on this team, which made me very excited. And I knew you'd like that too, George. Darius Fountain and Sky Moore as the wide receivers. And then, of course, Steady Eddie, Travis Kelce, and Blake Bell at the tight end position. I was pretty sad to see Noah Gray didn't move up on this depth chart as well. George, what do you think of this Chiefs team?
So I'm extremely interested in a lot of pieces on this team. I get, like, they lost Tyreek Hill, and just because they lost Tyreek Hill, this is still a very good team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They still have Patrick Mahomes, and you can say what you want, but having one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league on your team is going to help your offense. You mentioned they do have Juju Smith-Schuster, who we've seen him put up over 1,000 yards in a season. They added Valdes-Scantling, who, we're getting reports in the OTAs in the offseason that he looks fantastic and he's burning, and there's a real connection between him and Mahomes. And then they drafted Sky Moore, who a lot of people are really high on. And then they also drafted a guy who I'm higher on than most, in Justin Ross. If he didn't have his medical issues, I think he probably would have been a 2nd or 3rd round pick. And so, he's also a talented wide receiver. And I do agree with Joe here. Losing Hill hurts a lot, but I think they added enough to where Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to distribute the ball to all the wide receivers and not just Tyreek Hill and Kelce. I'm still high on Kelce. I'm higher on Ronald Jones than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I still think in redraft leagues, Kelce's the #1 tight end. And the reason I'm higher on Ronald Jones than Clyde Edwards-Helaire is I think Ronald Jones is the one who's going to be your goal line back. He's going to be your short yardage back. He'll be your goal line back. And he's not a terrible running back. He is a decent running back. And we've seen 3 years of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I was not impressed with him when they drafted him. I didn't like him then. I don't like him now. I don't think he's a very good running back.
So I'm going to say something that might be interesting, but I'm looking at the weapons here and I go, this is the 4th best team in this division. I love Patrick Mahomes. I like Kelce. Valdes-Scantling is good, but not, we've seen what he did with Aaron Rodgers. And does anybody think that, like, they do different things, but does anybody think what Valdes-Scantling's skill set is matches up with what Mahomes does? Because what Hill did is just ran around until Mahomes finally got him the ball. It wasn't like timing routes. It wasn't, it wasn't these like really precision passes. It was, I'm going to get flushed out of the pocket and we're going to improvise something. That's not Scantling's MO. That's not Hardman's MO. That's not Juju Smith-Schuster's MO either. Like, I don't see that on this team. Maybe Sky Moore has that. Maybe Ross has that if he can get healthy. I like Ross a lot too. Coming in as a sorry guys, fireworks are scaring the crap out of my dog. So other than Kelce and Mahomes, I like this team, but like from a pure, like from a standpoint of like what they normally do and what they now have, losing Hill is a big issue for this team. And I don't think they really actually addressed it here. And,
Well,
and
72% of the targets, right? 72% of the targets went to Tyreek Hill last year. That was Mahomes' safety blanket. I myself feel like Hardman does have the speed and the ability to be able to maybe give about 60% of that gap back to him, but he is no Tyreek Hill by any means. And I'm with Joe when he says hashtag never Rojo. He's up there with Gaskin with me. And I really honestly feel like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be on his third-year breakout right here. I feel like Mahomes saw something in this kid, and we'll see a little bit more of it this year because they're going to have to, right? Like, I just agree. I mean, if you can't get it done with Aaron Rodgers, you're crazy to think you're going to be able to just go get it done with Patrick Mahomes. To me, they're completely different quarterbacks, but they're both very skilled quarterbacks that can get you the ball. For me, Mecole Hardman is actually kind of the guy to own here. Although I could see Juju Smith being a really good ad as well because we've seen it before.
I mean, honestly, from a football standpoint, over CEH, who I've seen enough of, and Ronald Jones, I mean, Jerick McKinnon down the stretch was the number one, and he re-signed with the team. Like
they were all banged up there, though. I mean, I don't read too much into that. They were all banged up.
They were all banged up, but he was very good down the. It's not like they were banged up.
He was better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire for sure.
I mean, right.
And I that's why I say I got no interest in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'd prefer give me Ronald Jones at his ADP over Clyde Edwards-Helaire 100 out of 100 times.
I agree.
The one thing that you did mention with Patrick Mahomes is him running around and throwing the ball deep. That's not what Patrick Mahomes did last year. Did he do it? Yes. But that's not how they played. Like, Patrick Mahomes had one of the top 5 quickest releases of the ball in the NFL last year. He only held on to the ball for like 2.3 seconds before he got rid of the ball. So that's why I'm saying I'm not overly concerned about this wide receiver core. Like, the highlights are absolutely fantastic. Patrick Mahomes scrambles. He's in the pocket. He dodges one guy. He dodges another guy. He scrambles to the left. He cuts back to the right. No look past it, 50 yards downfield to Tyreek. Like, those are great highlights. But that's not what the Chiefs' offense was. It just wasn't. Most of their passes, he only held on to the ball for 2.3 seconds. They're all short yard passes past the goal, past the line, and allow Tyreek to use his speed and his agility and his route running. People highly discredit that man's ability to run a route to get open and take off. These guys that they brought in, they're fast. They're not nearly as fast as Tyreek Hill. I get that. But he's got to have – it's overall, even with losing Tyreek Hill, they upgraded their wide receiving core overall. Now, one individual was better than all of them, absolutely. But in totality, it's a much better, more balanced wide receiver core. And I think Patrick Mahomes is good enough and Andy Reid is good enough to scheme for that and make it work. I'm not going to discredit it just because they lost Tyreek Hill. I can't do that.
That's a fair point. Because, I mean, that's one thing. Patrick Mahomes is a champion, and that's something he's going to try to go do. And I know they should have maybe a little bit more time with that modified line. I know they tried to modify the line a couple of years ago, but sometimes those lines take a few years to gel. So maybe we'll actually see a little bit more of a balanced attack, a little bit more running game out of there. And hopefully that's led by CEH because I hate to be wrong, but I think he's going to be a really good grab this year.
This backfield screams that backfield screams committee to me. It really does.
Yeah. It should too. Yeah. But I mean, I think they'll need to, but I think we'll see a separation to Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year. Like I said, I feel like he's going to be having his third year breakout. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to the Chargers. Oh, wait, really quick. I just wanted to say, wouldn't it be great if Josh Gordon was the number 1 wide receiver on this team, George?
Oh, dude. Yes. I'm here for it. I'm here for the Josh Gordon 2022-23 season breakout. Yes.
Yes, that would be great. That's for anybody who owned him in 1985, like George and I did. And
listen, no BS. I still have him on some dynasty teams. I ain't lying. That's my guy.
Yeah,
that's my guy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, I didn't let him go. I couldn't quit him. The Chargers have Herbert as the quarterback, Austin Eckler and Isaiah Spiller, which already moved ahead of I think it's Josh. I can't remember the guy's
Jackson.
name.
Justin Jackson or something like that.
Justin Jackson got cut. It's somebody else. Anyways,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Isaiah Spiller beat him already. We got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Joshua Palmer, Mike Bandy, Jalen Guyton, and DeAndre Carter at the wide receiver position. And this was kind of a shock to me with Gerald Everett and Donald Parham Jr. as the tight end. Gerald Everett coming in there, that's kind of a enticing thing. But Jason, I'll go ahead and let you lead this one off.
So, I might have been too quick on the trigger on 4th for Kansas City because everybody knows they got Mike Williams. Everybody knows they have Keenan Allen. I love both of those guys. Don't get me wrong, in their ADPs. Keenan Allen continues to put out good season after good season. All he does is keep sliding, and for a decent reason. Like, Herbert's a different type of quarterback than Phillip Rivers was. Herbert will throw it deep to Mike Williams when Rivers wouldn't do that before. But man, they are a mile wide and about an inch deep in wide receiver, aren't they?
That's what I was thinking on this team when I was typing it up.
They've got talent at 1 and 2. But man, 3, Josh Palmer showed some flashes. That's not a bad guy. Jalen Guyton, I like the name. He had spots, but man, that is thin. If one of the 2 guys gets hurt, that is thin. Austin Eckler is going to do Austin Eckler things. Like, he keeps begging for them to find somebody to spell him a little bit because he can only do so much on the field. Spiller is probably that guy. I loved Isaiah Spiller in college, but he had a bad combine, right? So that's kind of dropped him down into like a day 3 pick. But he's still got talent. That guy can run between the tackles. So I do like him on this team. Not for fantasy, but for regular football, which to me says Austin Eckler is still a buy even at his inflated price. And you said it earlier, Gerald Everett is a guy I am targeting because I very rarely spend up on one of the big tight ends, and then I'm punting until the end. And Gerald Everett is going to be sneaky good on this team. So I really like Gerald Everett.
George, what do you think of that about this team?
Yeah,
George, you're on mute.
So I think this team is. Am I? No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
I'm not on mute. I said I wasn't on mute. I actually, and it pains me to say this, I really do like this Chargers team. Yeah, they are a little thin at the wide receiver position. That's fine. They were thin there last year as well, but you got one of the top 3 quarterbacks again. Like I said, with Mahomes, you got one of the top 3 quarterbacks for fantasy. And Justin Herbert, all she's going to do is just throw the ball some more. Austin Eckler, what can you say? He is a top 5 running back in fantasy. His involvement in the passing game is absolutely phenomenal. He can run between the tackles. He's a short, stocky guy. He can punch it in from the goal line. Keenan Allen is absolutely just Mr. Consistent. You throw him in your lineups, set it, forget it. You know what you're getting from him. He's probably going to get 8 to 10 targets a game, probably going to have 6 to 8 catches a game. If he falls in the end zone, you got a 20-point week. It's just your NFL because he's just so consistent. All he does is produce. Mike Williams listen, they just gave him a huge contract. But for fantasy purposes, man, it's a story of 2 seasons last year with him. Like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, he tore it up.
Yeah.
And then like after that, it's like, where did he go? Like he was absolutely just crushing you. There were weeks you would put him in your lineup and, you're thinking, okay, this should be a good game. You throw him in against Philadelphia and you're like, all right, this is going to be a good game. Philly's defense is banged up. They're not very good. He goes out and gives you 2 for 58, no touchdowns. Like that crushes you when it's a guy who, 2 weeks before that was going 148 receiving yards on 5 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Like it crushes you. So I don't know what to expect from him. They paid him. He is a former first-round draft pick. So I'm hoping that, he can duplicate at least a little bit or be more consistent. But man, he hurt people last year. Like you were riding the highest of highs and the lowest of lows with him. I do like Jalen Guyton. I think he's a decent wide receiver 3. when and if either Williams or Keenan Allen goes down, we've seen him just step right in, and he could be productive. So I do like Guyton, but after that, that's nobody I'm interested in. And I do like Gerald Everett, and as the tight end, they've always used their tight ends. Jared Cook was a valuable asset in that tight end position the last few years. So I absolutely do love the Jared Everett being the tight end there. We've seen him produce with the Rams when he was the only tight end there. He'd go out and put up, tight end one games for you. He just absolutely a great addition. Overall, I like it. I still think this is one of the better teams in this division. Their defense is absolutely loaded. Like, they stocked up for a championship run this year. And if they don't make the playoffs this year, it's probably going to be one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL because they've spent a lot of money and they are primed not just for a playoff run, but a deep one at that.
Yeah, it's really hard to get playoffs in this division right here. I mean, when you've got a lot of solid teams up ahead of you, like the Raiders that we're going to be talking about are even a damn good team too. So it's understandable to an extent, but yeah, I feel like you're right. What they've got defensively, because it's almost a no-fly zone against that team. They're really, really hard to pass on. You can run against the Chargers, but I mean, Bosa's getting better every single year, so it's going to get even harder and harder to do that as well. So yeah, I could see Guyton taking on the third spot out of this. I could see him overtaking Joshua Palmer because he is a solid asset. He's proved himself on that team, and he's proved himself a good rapport with Herbert. And yeah, Gerald Everett for me, I'm very excited to have him on quite a few of my fantasy lineups this year because I do think you can get this guy in the 14th, 15th, 16th round, and he'll produce some pretty solid results.
The one thing that concerns me about this team, and we can say it about every team, but specifically the Chargers, is they have a long history of their players not being healthy. Like, they got a long history. Bosa's missed time with injury. Keenan Allen's missed time with injuries. Eckler's missed time with injury. Derwin James has missed time with injuries. Like, when these guys for the Chargers, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's their strength and conditioning or what. I'm just not sure. But when they get injured, they don't miss games. They miss a lot of games. It's not one or two. It's extended periods with these guys.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that does concern me. But I mean, like I said, you can say that about every team, but it just seems some teams are more apt to severe injuries than others.
And they're all in Los Angeles and San Francisco.
Yep. They're all on the West Coast. It's that guacamole vegan healthy food lifestyle. They're not they're not compromising killing their immune system with cheeseburgers and French fries and pizza.
Right.
No, they want those guac salads with almonds and strawberries. Like, what the hell is that?
Right. Yeah.
So let's play ADP game with Mike Williams, okay? Because like George said, he is a guy that killed you last year because he started off so hot that you never could bench him, and then he fell off such a cliff that he killed you week in and week out, right? So Mike Williams, currently wide receiver 17, he's going right after Deontay Johnson and DJ Moore. Of those two, which would you rather? Of those three, which would you rather have? Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, Mike Williams.
You know my answer.
I think DJ Moore for me.
No. Well, caveat. I want to throw a caveat. As of today, with Sam Darnold as his quarterback, I don't want nothing to do with DJ Moore. I'm not a big DJ Moore guy. Full disclosure, I've never been a DJ Moore guy. But with Sam Darnold as his quarterback, I want nothing to do with him. Give me Deontay Johnson with Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett all day long.
Okay, so it doesn't surprise me. We don't want to take the guys. We don't want to take Mike Williams over the guys taken ahead of him, right? The guys behind him, this is where it gets interesting. Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, those three guys are the guys going, 18, 19, 20. I'm taking Cortland Sutton all day over Mike Williams, but that's kind of where it stops for me. DK Metcalf is on a team with Geno Smith as his starting quarterback, and Terry McLaurin got an upgrade in Wentz, but like, how good of an upgrade is Wentz compared to what he had last year? It's huge, but it's so okay, fine. His passes are only going to go 5 yards over Terry McLaurin's head and not the 10 or 15 from last year, So right where Mike Williams is, he's kind of right where he needs to be. I'd slide him down just maybe one slot for me, but and take Cortland Sutton. But again, I can't pretend like Cortland Sutton doesn't have some question marks around him as well. Hasn't had for all the talent we've seen, and again because of quarterback, we just haven't seen it produced on the field with Sutton either. So I get why Mike Williams is going where he's going, and it's pretty high considering the half a season he put up last year.
Yeah, so I think I'd add Terry McLaurin to that list. I think I want Terry McLaurin over Mike Williams. I think he's more of a solid. And I mean, if I'm grabbing him at this point, I'm thinking I'm probably grabbing my wide receiver 1. Hopefully, I've already got my 2 running backs banked up and everything like that, and I'm taking the next swing around. And I would be happier with Terry McLaurin as my wide receiver 1 than Mike Williams as my wide receiver 1.
So I would take DK Metcalf over Mike Williams, and here is why. Here's the last 6 games for DK Metcalf last year.
With Russell Wilson as his quarterback.
No, it was Geno Smith. It was Geno.
Oh, okay, gotcha. No, that's fair. I forgot that he's played 3 games last year.
Yep. So 8 targets, 12 targets, 5 targets, 9 targets, 11 targets. So even if Geno Smith is the quarterback there, and I know we talked about the quarterback situation there on a previous episode, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I actually defended Geno Smith, so you should go back and look at it and watch it, and you can tell me where I'm wrong, which is everywhere. But if I can get a guy that's getting 8 to 10 targets a game, I'll take that. I'll absolutely take that. And not all of those games were bad. 5 receptions, 11 yards, 58 yards, 6 receptions, 6. Okay, fine. I'm sorry, I didn't add the touchdown in. 6 receptions for 63 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yes, give me that, please. Against the Bears, this was a horrible game. This one crushed you. You got saved by a touchdown, but 2 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown. I'll take those numbers, no problem, over what Mike Williams was giving you last year.
For sure.
Yeah, because the odds are. Yeah, the volume is there for him. They're going to hyper target DK Metcalf. I still would prefer Tyler Lockett over DK Metcalf, but I think they're going to still throw a lot of balls towards DK Metcalf, and that's with Geno Smith as the quarterback. Well, nobody's expecting them to trade for Jimmy G, because I don't see San Francisco trading him within division if they trade him at all. But there's rumors Baker might be going to Seattle. And if
that would change.
If that happens, you're going to see those ADPs skyrocket. But as of right now, even with Geno Smith as the quarterback, I have no problem taking DK Metcalf over Mike Williams. I do that, no problem.
So you said last 6 games though, right? Because we're all looking at Mike Williams' last 6 is not great, but Mike Williams and let's see. All right, Cleveland, 16 targets, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now then he gave you his stinker, 1 reception, 4 targets, 11 yards. His next game he had 9 targets, 122 yards, 10 targets for 91 yards, 12 targets for 82 yards. I think that's
the end of the season?
That was
or is that the beginning of the season? You're looking at the beginning of the season.
This has this backwards. Okay, last game last year against the Raiders, 17 targets, 9 receptions, 119 yards, and a touchdown.
Okay, but I got one question. I got one question. Question.
I know
for fantasy purposes only.
Nothing.
That doesn't help. That does not help you at all.
I know.
Let's look at that 4-target game. Look at the 9 target where he had 3 receptions, 6 for 61.
Yeah, it flipped on me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it was not pretty. It was absolutely not pretty.
How do I not remember that strong of a season coming out of Mike Williams last
year? It was Jason was looking at backwards. I as soon as he started reading those numbers, because I had Mike Williams' numbers pulled up. And I'm like, nope, you got this backwards.
Yeah. Now here's the other thing. I can clearly remember DK Metcalf disappearing over the last several games of the season. So I'm wondering about his numbers. But again, that could just be like a feel and not me like actually looking at the box scores. But I remember people audibly complaining.
No, he had some. Listen, he three receptions for 26 yards, 4 receptions, 31 yards, 1 reception for 13 yards, 5 receptions for 60. Listen, in a PPR that gets you 11 points. That's my bar is 11 points, 10 points. 10. You know, but in none of those he had touchdowns in. Absolutely none of those. But he put up 12 touchdowns on the season. He had one game, the championship week, you know, he put up 3 touchdowns. Semi-championship week, he put up, 2 for 41, but he also had that touchdown. So
the problem really is by the time you got to the championship week, you didn't play him. You couldn't trust playing him, and you didn't get those 3 touchdowns because the week before he had 2 receptions for 41 yards. Yes, he had a touchdown that week, so it wasn't bad, but like that's not what you're looking for in your championship. So anyway, we're not talking about Metcalf we're not talking about Metcalf this week anyway. I just thought it was interesting because Mike Williams, for like as up and down of a season as it is, like his ADP is probably right where it needs to be.
Yep, right where it belongs, I think.
It's too high.
With that, we'll go to the Raiders. Boo, Raiders. We got Carr.
Raiders.
We got Carr as the quarterback. We got Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake coming in as the running back. Devontae Adams making an appearance with Keelan Cole, which I didn't see that one go through pretty much under the radar. I'm sure anything that happens to Keelan Cole, but he's always been one of my favorite receivers as well. Hunter Renfrow, Mac Hollins, Tyron Johnson, Demarcus Robinson at the wide receiver position. Then the solid tight end number 3, in my opinion, Darren Waller and Foster Moreau coming in at that tight end position. We'll go ahead and kick this one off. So I feel like Carr is going to be a good serviceable play this year. I think he'll actually finish a quarterback 1. Devontae Adams, I think, might have a potential chance to finish as a high-end wide receiver 2, possibly a low-end 1, although, I mean, we just have not seen wide receiver 1s come out of Derek Carr, except one time in his whole entire career with Amari Cooper, and that's with many years of Amari Cooper being about the only talent on that whole entire team. So with that, I do like Keelan Cole a little bit, and Hunter Renfrow, I think, is going to be another solid add because Devontae Adams is going to be taking a whole lot of pressure off of him. And then Darren Waller, I think, is going to continuously suck down those red zone targets. Jason, what do you think about this Raiders team?
So I like this team. I actually like their 1, 2, 3 as far as wide receivers go. I was a Renfrow guy pretty early on. Hard to be a Renfrow guy when he doesn't go out and do much, and then he blows up, and you go, "Hey, look where I said way back here," and nobody cares. Nobody cares. But I actually like this team a lot. Josh Jacobs, I think they're gonna run the tires off of him. It's the last year of his deal. I think he's a very talented running back, and Josh McDaniel coming over here, I think they're actually going to get him involved finally in the passing game, which is something they haven't done. They didn't do under the previous regime at all. Gruden and I forgot the name of the interim coach, but and then the one thing I'll disagree with maybe a little bit of what you said is Waller. I think Waller takes a giant step back in this offense because Waller's always been a volume play. But you don't go get Adams and not give him the volume that we're all expecting him to get. So I think Adams is going to get a ton of volume, and I think Waller it gets eaten out of Waller's volume. Now, all the talent in the world, I like the player, I like the name. I think he's going to still be one of the top end tight ends because let's face it, the tight end market sucks. But I personally think Waller takes a step back. I think Renfrow still gets his. I think Keelan Cole is interesting, and I think Adams is going to be great here. And just like for those that are in the Scott Fish Bowl, Derek Carr is going to be a really great Scott Fish Bowl quarterback. He doesn't turn the ball over much. He likes to throw the ball around the line of scrimmage. He's got guys that can get open. His completion percentage is going to be high, so you're not going to lose a lot of points there. So, Derek Carr is going to be a highly targeted Scott Fish Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, what can I add to that? So I don't get the Zamir White hype. Like I get they went out and they drafted, Zamir White in the draft, right? They spent a 4th round pick on this guy, and people just assume like he's going to be the Josh Jacobs replacement this year, and because they didn't give him a 5th-year option, they didn't take his 5th-year option on his team or on his contract. I don't see that. I think Jacobs is going to be, like Jason said, ran into the dirt. I don't see Kenyon Drake usurping him. I definitely don't see Zamir White usurping him this year. So I'm excited about the opportunity that Josh Jacobs has. And as far as Adams and Waller go, I think while the targets from Waller will go down, I think that the more efficient targets is what he'll be seeing, because teams were literally doubling Waller last year, because outside of Renfro, he was their biggest threat, especially after he who shall not be named decided to accelerate a little too fast and kill someone. So I think while Waller will probably see less targets, I think he'll be open more, and I think he'll be more efficient. I could see this kind of being like a Hill Kelsey. I understand, they're different athletes and different type of receivers between Adams and Hill and Waller and Kelsey, but I can see that dynamic where with an actual true number 1 wide receiver opening things up greatly for other people. And I think Waller will be a beneficiary from that. I'm not sure Renfro's going to get as many targets as he did last year. I honestly believe he was one of those guys who was getting all these targets because Waller was injured, and who else are you going to throw it to? Like, you had Zay Jones, you had Renfro, but Renfro is clearly an upgrade over Zay Jones. Like, he's a lot better than Zay Jones. So it's one of those things where there wasn't really a whole lot to throw to. So that's why he was getting as many targets as he was getting. I'm not saying that he's, a bad wide receiver. I just don't think he's going to, reproduce what he did last year. I love the addition of Matt Collins, by the way, on this team. Matt Collins was with Miami last year, and all that guy does is go out there. He plays hard every single down. He's a big body wide receiver. I believe he's like 6'2" or 6'3". He'll go out there and he will block his butt off for you. So that's going to get him on the field a lot. I'm not saying Matt Collins will even usurp Hunter Renfro, but I think Matt Collins will, get some of those targets as well. He'll be on the field. Yeah, when they do the 3 wide receiver sets with the 1 tight end and the running back, it will be. I think it'll be Matt Collins, just because of all the little things that he does. That Tyron Johnson, and I like DeMarcus Robinson, but DeMarcus Robinson is not the wide receiver Matt Collins is.
I like it.
Let me throw one more thing out too about this team. With all the stuff that they went through last year, coach getting fired early, having a guy kill someone, like that locker room went through hell and back, and everybody wrote him off. Coach got fired. Oh well, they're done. Rookie, speedster wide receiver goes and kills somebody. That team is not coming out of this and done. And they went to the playoffs, right? They got playoff experience under their belt. I know Mike doesn't like them and doesn't want to hear it, but I think there's something to that. They've got a good coach coming in, and that team's locker room has been tested already. They're tough as nails. There's something to that in this division, and I really like this Raiders team, both in the NFL and as fantasy options this year because of it.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was going to say, they did make the playoffs. That was a test of perseverance. There is a lot to like about the Raiders. I don't like them, right? But I don't like them as a Broncos fan, but as a fantasy guy, I love them. Like, I love the Raiders, and I love Derek Carr, and especially, like you said, in the Scott Fish Bowl.
Yeah, I think they have to remain healthy if they want to have a chance in this division. You put this Raiders team in the NFC, and they're one of the better teams in the NFC. The problem is and I listen, I fully understand what losing Tyreek Hill can do to a team, but until you beat the champs of the division, they're still the champs of the division. So they still have to go through Kansas City. They have to go through Denver, who is a hell of a team, who've done nothing but upgrade this offseason as well. And then you got to go through the Chargers, who we just talked about, who is also a hell of a team. I like what the Raiders have done this offseason, but I have them last in this division. And that's only because the division that they're in. It's not a hate towards the Raiders. Like I said, you put this team in the NFC, it's one of the best teams in the NFC. But the problem is their division that they play in is from top to bottom is absolutely stacked.
Yeah, this division is something else, man. They're just top to bottom, end to end. This has got so much talent in it. It's not even funny. So now we're going to go ahead and ask some tough questions, guys. Who's the best quarterback in this division? Is it Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, or Derek Carr?
I'll take this one first. And I'm only looking at this as strictly fantasy and not as an NFL quarterback. If I was doing if I was doing NFL, it'd be Patrick Mahomes. But based strictly 100% on fantasy, I've got to go with Justin Herbert.
And Jason, what do you think?
No, I was going to say the exact same thing in the exact same way. Look, Mahomes is the better quarterback in the league, but the weapons for Herbert, the two top-end weapons. Now, look, it really does come down to health for Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, those guys, because like those guys get hurt, and I don't know who else they have, but
Michael Bandy.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, Herbert from a fantasy perspective is the number one quarterback in this division.
And I'm going to actually agree with you guys. I think Justin Herbert will be the guy to own. I think he finishes as the number 2 quarterback this year. And I feel like Patrick Mahomes finishes number 3. So for me, you're splitting hairs. Russell Wilson, I have at number 7 or number 8. I can't remember. It's one of those two.
I've got him at 8.
So a little bit further down than even both of these guys. And Derek Carr, I have at 11. So, I mean, for me, these are all quarterback ones. I think that's going to be something that's pretty cool if they can all finish as a quarterback one at the end of the season out of one division. So, best running back, we got Javonte Williams, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Austin Eckler, or Josh Jacobs. A little bit of a downgrade there when we talk about running backs.
It's Austin Eckler. It is. He's with all the receptions out of the backfield, still a great runner, still can find the end zone. Not a lot of competition there. It's Austin Eckler, and it could have been Javonte, right? They didn't re-sign Melvin Gordon. There's a world where Javonte eats into that because I think he's got talent. But Austin Eckler's the one that's got talent and no competition, so it's Eckler for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, it would actually be very, very close for me if they didn't bring back Melvin Gordon. Like, let's say, for example, the Broncos went out and they signed Rojo, right? Like, they brought Rojo in instead of bringing back Melvin Gordon. Man, that would, between him and Eckler, it would be very, very close. But I would still probably lean Eckler, but it would be so close. But they brought back Melvin Gordon, and I expect to see, almost a 50-50 split like they did last year. I mean, these guys both had the same amount of carries last year. Their yards were only separated by like 10 or 15 yards on the season. And Melvin Gordon had a way more touchdowns than Javonte Williams. I think he had like 5 or 6 more touchdowns than him. But, I've got to go Eckler. He's just an absolute stud.
Plus, he's so cool to fantasy owners and stuff like that. He gets involved with the fantasy owner. I, too, will go with Eckler, but I would not be shocked to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire dethrone him in this season.
I'm about to remove Mike from the stream here.
Wide receivers, we got Sutton. We're going to say Smith-Schuster's the best one on the Chiefs for now, for argument's sake. Keenan Allen on the Chargers, and Devontae Adams for the Raiders. Who's the best fantasy receiver here?
I mean, I think this one's clear cut too with Devontae Adams.
Is it?
I disagree.
Okay, you think it's Cortland Sutton?
I think it will be Cortland Sutton, honestly. I mean, to actually, you know what? I actually think it's going to be Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's Mr. Consistent. Keenan Allen is always getting it done. I think it's Keenan Allen. And I mean, everybody always refers to his injury history. What did he have? Like, the biggest one he had was a ruptured spleen, which is very hard to repeat. And the other one was also like a crazy knee break on him. So I don't really think he's really an injury prone guy. So for me, it's Keenan Allen.
You can't repeat it because you only get one spleen. That's a one and done.
Yeah. It's this. So I want to say it's Keenan Allen. I really, really do. I love Keenan Allen. I've been a huge fan of Keenan Allen for years. There's some years where I had him and he absolutely burnt me. And those were his. Man, the last 5 years, 102 receptions, 97, 104, 100, 106. Like, the guy just goes out and is so consistent. Davante Adams going to the Raiders' new team. He is familiar with the quarterback. They did play together in college. That was a long time ago. But they did play together in college. But I gotta go Davante.
I just can't count on Derek Carr producing a number one wide receiver out of nowhere.
He hasn't had a number one wide receiver to produce a number one wide receiver. That's the problem.
Amari Cooper's a wide receiver one.
No, he's not. No, he's not. Listen, if I'm drafting right now, am I drafting Davante Adams over Keenan Allen? Yes, I am. So I got to go Davante Adams.
Fair enough. Fair point. Yep. I think honestly, I might be grabbing Davante Adams before I grab Keenan Allen too. But it's still close for me.
I won't be as excited to grab Davante Adams this year as I would be in previous years. But I'm still drafting him ahead of Keenan Allen. So I'm going to go. He's the better wide receiver.
Okay, and the best tight end out there. I mean, we don't even have to bring this guy up, right? Travis Kelce wins by default, the number one tight end in the league.
Yeah. Unless Jason's got something different.
No, I mean, listen, I already told you, I think Waller's taking a step back. He's a guy a couple years ago, I would say, because of the targets he was getting, I could have challenged Kelce. But Kelsey's the number one guy. I don't think it's going to change this year from last year. Although Mark Andrews, I guess, was the number one total, like by the end of the season. But I think Kelsey's still the number one.
Well, no, Tyreek Hill, that safety blanket's going to turn to Travis Kelce. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Kelce might even do better this year than he ever has in his previous years. And also this guy's been doing is crushing it his whole entire career. So, and I think Albert Okwuegbunam could also finish as a tight end one as well, but not as high as Kelce.
Did you know that Travis Kelce and Gronk are the same age?
I did not know that.
They just don't seem it, right? Like, it's just so much punishment on Gronk's body, but they're the exact same age. And one dude's retiring, and the other guy's still kicking it out there, being the number one.
Oh, please! Gronk will be back mid-season. Stop it. He just doesn't want to go through. He just doesn't want to go through training camp and all that. Like, I don't blame him.
I hope so. I don't want to see Cade Otton or whatever. As our
Jason,
one.
It's going to be the guy you have a jersey of. It's going to be Cameron Brate. Come on, man.
Cameron Brate. Yes,
you can wear that. You can
go late in so many best ball drafts just because of this. But I do think Gronk comes back, and we got Nino checking in, and he's saying nonsense like MVS is greater than Juju. But
Nino's great. Nino's great for a hot take like that. That's a good hot take, Nino. We appreciate you chiming in.
Nino is showing up late and high.
Yes. he was late because he was ripping it. That's okay though. We condone that here on the Blitz, as a matter of fact. So
look, Cameron Brate is a Tampa Bay tight end one, but and that's because Nino, for people that are listening to the podcast and not watching on YouTube, Nino popped up Cameron Brate tight end one. 5 years ago, I would have said Cameron Brate was heading that way. OJ Howard got drafted. They got Gronk. Like, Cameron Brate's best seasons are behind him. We saw what he could do. I think he ended up with like 4 receptions on 7 targets in the games that Gronk was out last year. If they needed him, if he was that great, he would have been good last year too. I love what he's done for the Tampa franchise, but that guy, don't go in best ball, okay, but don't go get that guy late thinking you're going to get something special. That is not Cameron Brate anymore.
Yeah, he's not my tight end one in these best ball leagues, by the way. Yeah, that's the guy I'm grabbing in the 16th, 17th round to end out the draft. So just because I have the expectation that he should at least see the volume, and that's the only thing that is there for me is the volume. But Kate Otten actually ought to be the guy to grab if you're continuing on best ball drafts. So guys, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this show up this evening. We've got a wild child running through. But we'll go ahead and wrap this up. The best division, man. I had a lot of fun talking about it. A lot of housekeeping stuff. Make sure you go to toiletstotitles.com, patreon.com/toiletstotitles. Give us that love and support on Apple Podcasts. Like and subscribe on YouTube. All that fun stuff. And guys, as always, a pleasure. George, Jason, I always appreciate having you guys on. And we likely won't be seeing you next week because of the Scott Fish Bowl draft, but we will definitely be back here in 2 weeks to talk up some more football. Wait, we got a bathroom board bet. Anybody want to take MVS over Juju?
I'll take Juju. I got Juju
I'll
side.
take Juju as well. So that's 2 of us right there. Write it down. Book it. You got us both hooked right there at the very end. And guys, we will see you. Like I said, if not next week, we will see you next week or the week after. And you guys have a safe, happy 4th, and we will see you then.